Hello, everyone, and welcome. Good afternoon or good morning. I was looking through the list today, and there's people from all over. So hello, wherever you are and whatever time it is. I can see everybody coming in now, so that's good. As everyone's just joining, I'll just do a bit of an intro. Today we're talking about custom metrics. And how we can add more, prove you've got more value in your reports. I'll be going through what custom metrics you could add and looking at AMEC's framework, which is a really good start for looking at metrics. And then I'll show you some free tools, which are quite useful for adding extra metrics to your reports. And for those of you who are regulars to our webinars, you might see that I'm missing my handy sidekick, David. But don't worry, David couldn't be with us today, but he will be joining. He's pre-recorded his side of the things, so he'll be going through more of the demo about how everything that I say fits within CoverageBook. And as always, we do have Will on keyboards. So Will be there to answer any questions you have as we go along. So don't be shy, ask him as you go, keep his fingers busy. And there is quite a lot that we will be going through today. So after this, I will be sending the recording of the webinar so you can go through anything that you might have missed. I'll also send the presentation that I'll go through in a minute. And I'll send links to all the resources that I talk about. So don't worry about jotting it all down. I will send it all through. So you can just sit back and watch. As always, we try and keep these webinars within half an hour. So we know how busy you all are. So I will get cracking. I've got some slides today to go through rather than straight into the demo. So let me pull these together. So before I jump into adding extra metrics, I just wanted to touch on the metrics that are available and the importance of choosing the correct metrics. We have over 50 available already in CoverageBook, and I would highly suggest against adding all of these and all the extra ones that I'm going to be talking about today. If you just give a barrage of metrics, your report reader is likely to gloss over things. We affectionately call it data puke within CoverageBook, and you won't make an impact at all. However, if you choose fewer metrics and the metrics that are going to tell a story, then you'll have a bigger impact. On a similar note, it's very good to have consistency within your reports. However, if you have the same metrics every single time, your report reader again might glass over and become accustomed to them and not really read them. So if you change them up every time you send a report and you're telling a true story about what that campaign was about and what you hit and how that was different, then your reports are more likely to be more engaging. And I see there's someone trying to speak. Bethany? Oh, no. Sorry, I saw a speak come up there. So we try and make CoverageBook in a way that you can easily choose between metrics. Just click them on and off depending on what you're trying to say. So although I'm going to talk about adding more metrics, often less is more. So in terms of what metrics you might want to be reporting on, unfortunately, there is no blueprint of everyone should have these 5 metrics and it's completely fine. Regardless of how big, small, whatever sector you are in, it then makes it, you still have to start with your objective, because if you know what you're trying to say, then you know what you're trying to measure, then you know how to measure it. And so in the same way, we know that the flow is not always as you'd like it to be. It would be so perfect if you could release your campaign, then visit the website, customers visit the website, and then they buy straight away. And it's all done within one day, so you can prove it was you and there's no other activity going on. However, we know this is not the case. More realistically, the journey looks a lot more crazy. It looks a lot more like this. So there's lots of touch points that people might be going to, and there's a lot of activity going on at the same time. However, it is good to map this journey out, because often you don't have all the details. You can't prove that PR led to these sales. So being able to match all the touch points as you go through, you can match how far you got. So for instance, if part of your objectives are to increase sales, you might not have access to sales data. You might, it might not be the key sales period. You might have a really long lead time. However, if you did a PR campaign and then you can see that in relation to that, brochure requests increased, then you can say, actually, we're having an impact. We're moving customers along the line. So it's not always about getting them from one end to the other straight away. It's how you can move them along. And again, if you, in a similar one, if you're trying to look at sales, but you can prove that you've increased visits to a product page, again, you're trying to move them along. So a way to try and map this out, I'm going to show you the AMEC framework. So I'm only going to touch on this briefly, and I will send links to lots of this in my notes. So AMEC is the Association for Measurement of Evaluation of Communications. Definitely a mouthful to say in a webinar, but they are well renowned for improving measurement in communications and PR. And as part of their work, all the key people in the industry got together to create an integrated evaluation framework. So basically what this means is they've created a framework where you can look through and you can see all the different touch points that you should and could be measuring and how to do it. So it's a good thing to start off with when looking at adding like extra metrics and extra value to what you're measuring. And it looks a little bit like this. So I'm not going to go through it in its full glory, but in a nutshell, as I mentioned before, you do need to start with the objectives. And so you might have the organization objectives, and they might be different to your communication ones, and that's fine. But when you're reporting, it's good to come back to these metrics and these objectives, because your report reader might not be thinking about that as they read it. They might be in a mind space, come back from a different sales meeting and looking at a different quarter, not what you were originally requested to do. And so custom slides are a really good way to start adding, this was the objective that we were set. And then they look through and how you're sort of planning your campaigns, and sort of setting targets is a really good way of measuring what you were going to do. So if you were told you were going to release maybe 3 stories, that's great. But we know what the PR world is like. You probably released 4 or 5, or you know, had to hijack off some news story. So you could use custom slides to then say, we were supposed to release 3 stories, but we released 5 stories. And you can start telling a story about actually the work that was involved behind the scenes. Then it moves on to activity. So you can, again, measure that. If you did an event, how many people came, or you might want to showcase the activity in a different way. You could use custom slides to do an image of the event or something like that. Then it moves on to outputs, and this is very much where CoverageBook really helps. So you start to measure the activity, measure how many pieces of coverage you had, or the follower details, how many impressions it might have had, or estimated views. But what they encourage is you to take it from there. So not just what did you put out there, but what did the audience do with that? You know, did they go on to search your website? Did they go on to search your brand? Did they go on to buy something? Did they go and engage with the audience? Again, some of CoverageBook's metrics do touch on this. You know, you could have a look to see what your most pieces have the most engagements. You know, people are they're taking a piece of coverage that you've done and they're liking it, and you can see that they're actually doing something with it, so they're engaged in it. So start thinking about more like, what is that getting people to do, all the way through to, can you prove an impact on sales? And it is really hard because of that shield that we showed before. But if you're measuring all the points along the way, then people can see actually how much value you're putting in all the way through the wheel. The next slide I'm going to show you is a fairly scary slide, and I'm not thinking we're going to read it all. I'm going to send you a link to it because it's a great resource of how this could work and what you could measure. So they have all the areas that we just highlighted there, and then they show what you might want to measure within each sphere. They're just examples. It's quite a big list. It's not a definitive list, but it's quite a big list, and methods you could go to doing it. And this is where it gets quite interesting. So if we jump into outputs, so that's where CoverageBook often sits, look at media metrics. So we can help with a lot of that. But then you might want to do a bit more content analysis. So you might want to say how many key messages are in each piece, and you can add that to your coverage at coverage level, and we'll add it up for you at the top. And David will show you that in a minute. But then where do you go from that? Do you want to look at web statistics? Can you see how many people visited? You might want to do some social media analysis. And then all the way through to impact, can you look at survey data or reputation studies? And some of this does get quite expensive, either in terms of costs or time. But there is some stuff you can do, which is why I wanted just to go through some free tools. So come back and visit this. It's a really good source of inspiration. But I'm going to show you some free tools that might be useful in helping to prove a bit more value, especially if you don't have masses of budget or time available. These are some of my favorites. So Google Trends is the first one. So this basically, you can use Google Trends to basically see how many people are searching certain words. So it's great from looking at sort of brand awareness, or if people have seen your campaign and taken action. It takes a bit of a play with it. So having a look at Patagonia as a topic, for instance, you can see that there's probably increased brand awareness you can infer from going up slightly. If you've done some PR activity around here, you might want to plot it against it. But then you could drill down a bit more and look at Patagonia fleece, for instance. And then you can see, actually, if you could overlay that you had some great pieces of coverage landing around here or around here, then you might want to overlay it, and you can really show that you have an impact, that you've put campaigns out there and now people are searching it. We haven't been able to demonstrate sales yet from that, but you've been able to demonstrate the next part along the customer journey. Another good thing to do with Google Trends is to look at if you're using any hashtags or any campaign related words, because there's a lot less noise around those sort of terms. So if you've got a hashtag, you know that it's likely only to be you guys or another team using it. So you can attribute these searches to your campaign. And what's really good about that is people searching specifically your campaign. So they've been inspired by what you're doing and they want to learn more. So Google Trends is the first one that I suggest you have a look at. The next tool, and you might recognize this logo, is SimilarWeb. So this is great if you want to look at traffic data, but you don't have access to your own or your client's Google Analytics. So there's two versions of SimilarWeb and they're slightly different. So we use SimilarWeb data in your reports to look at traffic numbers. You can use a free version. The number is slightly different because they don't get rid of repeat users, but the theory is still the same, that you can look to see how many people went to a certain website over a certain amount of time. So this looks at CoverageBook data. And so if you put in your if you put in your brand website and you had a graph that looks a little bit like this, then wouldn't it be great if you'd just done a campaign around November and you could say, do you know what, we sent so many more people to the site. You could have another team looking at converting, but you could say, we sent this many people to the site. Did trials increase? Did you see any movement? And if you have any graph like this, you can easily put it in CoverageBook as a custom metric, as a custom slide. So all this sort of data that you pull through, you can easily pull through and showcase in CoverageBook alongside your data. And the last tool that I wanted to show you is a CPM calculator. The first question I'm guessing that's going to go through your head is, what is CPM? So CPM is cost per milli, or cost per thousand. And so this is great if you're being asked for a pound value or dollar value for your campaign. And we know that gets asked a lot because it's asked from us a lot, whether we have one. And I know that the industry, we're moving away from using AVE and looking to see what other monetary value we can assign to a campaign. So CPM is a really good calculator to use. So what it effectively does is it looks at the content you secured, the budget it costs to secure it, and then how much it costs per 1,000 views. And it's great because many marketing directors are already using CPM in other marketing activities. So it's a metric they are familiar with and they trust. It's also a metric, therefore, that they can measure your activity alongside other people's other marketing activity. And it can open conversations about like where budget should lie. So it's pretty simple to use. You basically put the cost of your budget basically in there. We've got estimated views, which we generate in your report. This currently is a standalone tool from the CoverageBook, so you will need to come here and pop it in. But then you add calculate, and it will give you a CPM value that you can add as a custom metric. Thank you, Will. I can see he's popped the link to the calculator in the chat, and I'll add it in the follow-up notes as well. But if you want to find it, if you Google calculator in our FAQs, you'll find it there as well. But that's a really handy one just to pop in and see what sort of values you're getting from there. And last from me, before I hand over to David, I just wanted to show you some examples of custom metrics. So this is from a report from a charity or a non-profit organisation called Dad Lassalle. They're based down where I lived, actually, down in Worthing, and they're fairly small. They don't have big budgets for big surveys. They don't have big budgets for big data teams to come and look at everything. But they use custom metrics in a way that does tell an interesting story, and they think outside the box about what metrics to use. So if you look, they've got like how many volunteer hours they've given, and then put a cost to that because they put a cost on the hours they've had. Their main target is to make dads feel less lonely. So they survey their own customer database to see like how, and they found 91% feel less lonely. So again, that's quite an impactful number to put in. They use some of ours, how many stories have been told, one I mentioned earlier. But what I really like is sometimes, I've seen them do this a few times, they use one as a metric, and that's actually quite powerful, although it's only one change of career. So they've persuaded one person to change career and do something different. So the metrics don't always need to be big. The metrics just need to tell a story, and you don't always need big budgets to do it. As hopefully the tools I've showed you, and hopefully seeing some of the AMEC stuff will help inspire you to other things that you can look to add to the value. So I'm going to now hand over to David. Bear with me, I'll do a quick handy over. And he'll show you how it works in CoverageBook.
Hey everyone, in this demo part of the webinar, we are going to look at how you can use custom slides and pages to add visual data representations to your reports. And we're also going to look at the two ways that you can add custom metrics. The first is adding a top line number as a card in your metrics summary. And the second is to use our custom metrics feature to add individual numbers to clippings, which we will tally up through the report for you. And then finally at the end, we'll look at how you can manage all of those metrics to make sure that you show all of the ones that you do want to show and none of the ones that you don't. So starting off, now custom slides and pages can be added to anywhere within the intro and summary pages of your report. And if you do have various sections of coverage, if you click inside the section, you will see that there's also the option to add a slide to the very start of the section of coverage. So you've got total flexibility as to where you can include custom pages through your report. Now, if you click on the green plus add button in the top, you'll see that there is the add slides and analysis option. Now, the first option, if you haven't seen it, I'll just quickly preview this for you. It's the slide builder. This allows you to create your own slides directly inside CoverageBook. So if you don't already have a PowerPoint or Google slide ready to go, you can create one using CoverageBook's own builder. So just give it some text. You can choose background color, a background image, and we also have 6 different layouts. So you can include some text on a side by side and then have an image to the right. There's lots of options for you to use. But in this example, we are going to go ahead and create a custom slide from a file that I've already made. So I'm just going to delete that blank one that I've started there. And then if I go back and click on Add Slides, I'm going to choose Import Slides. So the file format will need to be JPEG, PNG or PDF. And I can just select one from my account, or from my folders, sorry. And then choose whether I want to add it to the intro and summary pages or one of the other sections in my report. And then that slide will then be added here. Now you can drag and drop these to reorganize them however you like through the report. And the really good thing about adding custom pages and slides is that when you share the report with others, those slides appear as nice high-res full-page images. So it's a really good way, if you've got a really nice graph or chart, you can include that for your clients to read. Now, the second option is the quickest of the two for adding extra data to CoverageBook, and that's using our custom card feature. So if you click into the summary page, you'll see that I've got just a few summary cards at the moment, totaling up views and engagements in this report, but you can also add any other top line numbers as cards. And this is a really quick and easy feature, so if you don't need to include individual numbers next to clippings, this will be the quickest way that you can add data to your reports. And it's really easy to do. Just click on Add Custom Cards, give it a name, give it a short description, and then give it a value. So for example, in this demo, say that I've worked out the cost per 1,000 impressions of my coverage. I can include that as a total card here. Now, if you wanted to, actually let's go CPM total, you can include a currency sign within the name of the card or in the description, just to let your readers know what currency you're reporting on. And then just give it a quick description. And then finally give it a value. Now, I would always recommend just putting in the number with no spaces, no full stops, and no other symbols, because we will automatically round that number up correctly for you. And then all I can do is click on Create Custom Summary Card, and we'll get that added to your report for you. So it's super quick and easy to add your own data using cards. This page is fully flexible as well. So you can actually drag and drop these cards around to reorganize them however you like. And you also have the flexibility to show or hide as many metrics as you like. So if you click on the Choose Metrics option in the top left, you can see that you can switch on or off any of these cards from showing in your summary. So you can really tailor the metrics specifically to your client in each of the reports that you create. Now, you'll also see at the bottom there is a section for your custom summary cards. If you click into here, this will also allow you to edit the current card that you've made, or if you've made a mistake and you want to start afresh, you can actually delete that card from the summary as well. Okay. Ooh. I turned that off. Let me just go back and add that on. There you go. Okay, great. So that's how you can add custom cards to your summary page. And the final thing we're going to look at is how you can use custom metrics to add to individual clippings, and we'll get those totaled up for you through the report. So I'm going to scroll down now to the events coverage section of my report so that I can add a custom metric to the first clip. So all you need to do is select a clipping and go into the edit page, and you'll see that down on the bottom of CoverageBook's automated metrics there is the add custom metric button here. So if I click into here, you will now have two different options. If you've already got a list of custom metrics that your team have created, you can just click on the drop down here and you can reuse existing metrics time and time again. So once you create a metric, it will always be there for you to reuse in future. But if you want to create a new metric, you can click on the Add New button. Now, you can use custom metrics for any type of data that you like. But you can also use it for things like quality scores. So if you like to assign a particular scoring system to your clippings to denote the quality of your coverage, you can use that as a custom metric to do that. You can also do things like add sentiment analysis as a percentage. So it's quite flexible if you do want to include those types of numbers in your reports. So for example, if I wanted to include a quality score, I can just call this one quality score, and I'm going to give it a description of just a simple 1 to 10 to denote 1 is the lowest, 10 is the best. You can give it any kind of description that you like to help explain this for your readers. And then you can choose to either sum up all of the number as a total, or you can include this as an average. So for example, in this particular report, I want to show the average quality score from between 1 to 10 for all of my clips. So I'll just choose average and then click on save. And now I can just give it a number. So this had a quality score of 7. And then for example, I can move to my next clip, click on add custom metric. I've already got quality score in my list, so now I can give this one a 5. Click on save. And what you will see is you will see the metrics label next to the clip in the report. And then when you go across to the metrics summary page, you'll see that we have totaled up the average quality score for all of the clippings in your report. So you just need to add the values to the individual clips, and we will do the hard work of either sum totaling or averaging those for you. Now, the final thing to showcase before I leave you is that you can also archive and permanently delete your metrics. So if you click on the My Account menu in the very top right-hand corner of the screen and go down to Custom Metrics, you will see that there is a list of all of your active metrics, and there are also a list of metrics that I've already archived from my account. So if you do have some old metrics, perhaps from last year, or you no longer have those clients with you and you want to remove those from your custom metrics list, all you need to do is just click on the archive button, and we will we'll remove that metric from being visible, but it will still show in all of your past reports, so you won't lose those numbers that you tracked before. If you did want to edit any metrics as well, you can do it from this page really easily. Just click on the edit option and you can change the text and the definition. And once you have archived off a metric, as long as it's not been used in any other clipping, so perhaps you've created one by mistake, you can just go across and hit the delete button, and we'll permanently delete that metric from your account. Hope that's helped. If you do have any questions about adding metrics, do get in touch with us at support@coveragebook.com, and we'd be happy to help.
Thanks for that, David. It's taken us slightly 1 or 2 minutes over. So do let us know if you've got any questions. Like I said, I'll send everything over to you guys tomorrow with links to everything that you've seen. And just before you guys go, I want to say one last thing. We'd love to make a free hopefully useful tool over here at CoverageBook. So I showed you the CPM calculator, but we are close to releasing the next tool that we're working on. So if you are interested in creating, have you ever tried to make a coverage over time graph? It's a pain. If you want to create a coverage over time graph and be able to put like overlay it with data without having to go into Excel and faff around with pivot tables, then you might be interested in our new tool, which is called Coverage Impact. I think Will might be able to put it in the chat if you want to have a look. There's a landing page at the moment, and you can sign up for updates. So if you'd want to see that, it's Coverage Impact. Oh, there you go. Will's put it in, CoverageImpact.com. Have a look through. My guessing is if you're interested in this webinar, you will probably be interested in that. So that will be released very shortly. And again, it's all about trying to help PRs and communicators prove the value of their coverage and prove what impact they're having on sort of sales data and stuff. So we're very excited to release that. So I hope you all found that useful. We'll be back next month. David will be in life again, hopefully. So yeah, any questions, let us know in the chat or email support@coveragebit.com. I hope you enjoyed it.